Welcome to Mental Models Daily, where we explore one mental model each day to help you elevate your daily decision-making. Today, we're delving into a fallacy that often keeps us hanging on far too long, the sunk cost fallacy. We'll try not to spend too much time on it, lest we fall victim to it ourselves. The sunk cost fallacy is a tendency to continue an endeavour due to previously invested resources, be they time, money or effort, even when continuing is not the best course of action. It's rather like insisting on finishing a bland meal at a restaurant simply because you've paid for it, instead of cutting your losses and finding something more palatable. This fallacy gets its name from the economic concept of sunk costs, past expenses that cannot be recovered. The error lies in allowing these irrecoverable costs to influence our current decisions, when logically they should be irrelevant. Let's consider an example. Imagine you've spent hours reading a book you're not enjoying. The sunk cost fallacy might compel you to finish it thinking, "I've already invested so much time, I can't give up now." In reality, continuing to read won't recover the time already spent, and might only waste more of your precious reading hours. In business, the sunk cost fallacy can lead to poor decision-making. A company might continue pouring money into a failing project, reasoning, "We've already invested millions, we can't stop now." This is akin to trying to bail out the Titanic with a teacup. Admirable persistence, perhaps, but ultimately futile. The sunk cost fallacy often rears its head in personal relationships. One might stay in an unfulfilling relationship thinking, "But we've been together for years," as if time spent were a valid reason to continue an unhappy situation. Unless you're trying to break a world record for endurance, longevity alone is rarely a good reason to persist. In gambling, this fallacy can be particularly pernicious. A gambler might think, "I've already lost so much, I have to keep playing to win it back." This is about as logical as trying to unscramble an egg. What's done is done, and further action won't undo past losses. So, how can we avoid falling into the sunk cost trap? Firstly, when making decisions, focus on future costs and benefits, not past investments. Ask yourself, regardless of what I've already invested, what's the best course of action from this point forward? It's like being a good chess player. The past moves matter less than the best next move. Secondly, practice emotional detachment from your investments. It's natural to feel committed to something you've put effort into, but try to evaluate situations objectively. Imagine giving advice to a friend in your position. What would you tell them? Lastly, reframe giving up as choosing a new path. We often continue with sunk costs to avoid feeling like we've failed, but recognizing when to change course is a skill in itself. After all, even Christopher Columbus eventually had to admit he hadn't found India. In conclusion, recognizing the sunk cost fallacy can free us from the burden of past decisions and allow us to make choices based on our current and future best interests. It's about learning when to hold 'em and when to fold 'em, as a certain gambler once sang. Thank you for joining me today on Mental Models Daily. I hope this exploration of the sunk cost fallacy hasn't cost you too dearly in time and attention. Until next time, may your decisions be unburdened by the past and focused on the future. For more mental models, please visit mentalmodelsdaily.com or find us on X or Instagram. Our podcast music was provided by the podcasthost.com and Alitu, the podcast maker. Find your own free podcast music over at thepodcasthost.com/free.